Now, let's speak to Avi Melamed, a former Israeli intelligence official and senior advisor on Arab affairs. Welcome to the programme. Where, from an Israeli perspective, does Yahya Sinwar's death sit now? We saw lots of people in Israel celebrating that news yesterday. But strategically, what comes next for the IDF?
Well, the killing of Sinwar, of course, is very substantial in many aspects, morally, operationally, and so on. I would add something significant to the discussion, and that is the fact that we should be aware of the fact that many people in the Arab world, including Palestinians, are actually holding, and rightly so, Sinwar responsible for the catastrophe that happened in Gaza Strip. So though there are narratives who actually romanticize Sinwar in the Arab world, I think it's important to understand that in the Arab world and the Palestinian, there are those who basically says Sinwar actually led Gaza Strip to destruction. Now, the whole issue of the follower of Sinwar and the successor of Sinwar, of course, is an open question. Right now, Hamas basically said that they are going to nominate someone, but it's going to remain anonymous. So in the context of the Israeli hostages that are being held in Gaza Strip after they have been kidnapped by Hamas militants and Islamic Jihad militants, as well kidnapped by Gaza people, civilians, I think there is a big question mark because we don't know the whereabouts of the hostages. I don't know if anyone knows exactly the whereabouts of all the hostages because they are being kept by the kidnappers in different places.
Can I ask you this on the hostages? Do you think there is more chance now, given the events of the last day or so, of a deal being agreed now when it comes to a ceasefire and therefore the release of those hostages who are still being held?
Well, I would like to say yes, but on the other hand, as I just mentioned right now, since Israelis kidnapped women and men and kids are being held by their kidnappers, whether they are Hamas militants or whether they are Gaza civilians, and nobody knows exactly the whereabouts, and we don't know exactly to what extent is there control of anyone, either Hamas or Islamic Jihad, on the situation. So we don't know to say exactly if there is one segment or one factor that we can talk to, or anyone can talk to, that will be able to bring all the hostages back to Israel. So this is something that I think that we should take into consideration when we are talking about the future fate of the Israeli hostages, 101 Israeli hostages that are held in Gaza Strip.
And just very briefly, we're talking about aid and the need for more aid and for Israel to allow more aid into Gaza where it's desperately needed. Why isn't more being allowed in?
I don't know to refer to the issue of the aid. I do know to say that in spite of the reports, to the best of my knowledge, people in Gaza Strip have not died of starvation. But obviously there is a need to resume and to make sure that the aid will stream. But again, I don't have much knowledge about that. But I do think it's very important to emphasize that while some Arab states are sending help to Gaza Strip, like the Saudis and the Emiratis, the Iranian regime, who is basically responsible to a large extent to the catastrophe in Gaza Strip, the only thing they did was to send arms and weapons to Hamas to drag Gaza Strip into this havoc. So this is something that I think we should also take into consideration when we are talking about the situation in Gaza Strip.
OK, Avi Melamed, thank you very much. And I think some people would say that people are really struggling to get food in Gaza. That's Avi Melamed, a former Israeli intelligence official.